Hello everybody, my name is Brian Vincent, and I am the author of this book here called A Worthless Piece of Paper. In this book, I tell a story from a first-person point of view account of my experience having been enrolled in and subsequently graduated from a private career college. And of course the subsequent rejection by employers that followed afterwards. I wrote this book for two main reasons. First reason is that I know that there are a lot of individuals out there, perhaps in the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands maybe, across Canada, who attended a private career college, graduated, and ended up being rejected time after time after time by employers. It's bad enough that as rookies fresh out of school, have a hard time getting a job because you don't really have a whole lot of experience, if any at all, under your belt. But when you're being told by employers that your credentials from a private career college are not recognized, that becomes a different matter altogether. Sorry about that, I didn't have my window shut there, and there's a bunch of magpie birds out there cawing out there like crazy, so I don't want that on the video. So anyhow, back to what I was saying. And so the other reason why I wrote this book was because I want this to be a cautionary tale for anyone out there who is thinking about going to a private career college. Whether you're someone just graduating from high school or about to graduate from high school, or whether you're someone in your 30s, your 40s, and you're looking for a career change, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to be very frank with you, a private career college is not the way to go. Do not get duped by all the flashy advertisement that they have, like median salaries this, guaranteed that, and guaranteed the other thing. If there's one thing in life, folks, there are no guarantees. There are none whatsoever. You don't hear publicly funded universities, publicly funded community colleges, polytechnic, applied arts and technology schools going on about all those flashy advertisements. There's a rhyme and a reason for it. And it's not just because they're publicly administered schools that are subsidized in one form or another by the government, the provincial and territorial governments of Canada, that is. And, or in other words, because private career colleges are for-profit businesses. So it's only a natural instinct to advertise. But, like anything else, when businesses attempt to sell someone snake oil, which is really, this is what private career colleges do. They have been doing it for years, is selling proverbial snake oil. And the reason why they're getting away with it is because it starts with the territorial and provincial governments of Canada. That's where it starts. The government claims that they're doing this and that and the other thing to make sure that private career colleges are in line. But the statistics tell a different story. So someone or many people in the government, in any provincial territorial government across Canada, has dropped the ball. Because students are still getting rejected by employers. Schools like the one that I attended are still getting away with outdated equipment, ill-qualified instructors, instructor turnover, and perhaps just a staff in general that likes to treat its clientele with basically indifference. That is not acceptable. If the provincial and the territorial governments were actually doing their jobs, this would never be an issue. So why are they being so laxed with the private career colleges? The publicly funded schools that the provincial and territorial governments administer to seem to be rolling along just fine, and all their credentials that students earn are pretty much universally recognized by employers in both public and private sectors. So perhaps it's because to them it's a conflict of interest if we try to force private career colleges to be at the same level, to be in line with the public schools in terms of graduate success rates. Who knows? But it's somewhere along the way, whatever the reasoning or the logic behind it, the provincial, territorial governments of Canada have dropped the ball. And as long as they continue to drop the ball, like they have, because obviously since I graduated over 20 years ago, nothing has changed. I'm still reading testimonials on social media of people who attended a private career college and basically found out they got the short end of the stick. They got rejected like I have. They spent time, very precious time, and a lot of money to try to better him or herself for the labor market. To start at the bottom, work your way up, and someday make that median salary that everybody hopes to make someday. So that way you can be living the dream. A nice house, 1 or 2 cars parked in the driveway. Be able to take a vacation every year or every second year, who knows? That's what we've all tried to do, including myself. We've tried to better ourselves in order to live a more comfortable lifestyle. And when we entrust these schools to give us the tools that we need to achieve our goals, and they don't deliver, well, it's a sign of a broken system, and it starts with the government. So yes, even though in my book, like on the surface, it appears I'm going after the private career colleges, because indeed, I'm not letting those guys off the hook. Because they are sneaky and devious enough to take advantage of the laxed rules, the laxed auditing that the provincial and territorial governments in Canada impose on these schools, respectively. And as long as they can find loopholes and fly under the radar, they're going to continue to have outdated equipment, ill-qualified instructors, bogus grading policies even, which is highlighted in one of the chapters in my book called Nefarious Scheme. And you're going to thoroughly enjoy that chapter in particular. So as you can tell from the title of my book, you pretty much know how the story ends. But knowing how the story ends is not what it's all about, folks. It is what is between the front cover and the back cover of this book. What is in this book is going to put the fear in you to avoid going to one of these schools. Because I guarantee you that my experiences having gone to this school and the subsequent rejection with employers afterwards is going to basically tell you, no, I am not going to go to a private career college come hell or high water. It's not going to happen. And that's what I want to do. I want to help people. I want to help people by educating them so I can make a difference, so somebody else out there does not get ripped off like I did. If I can even just convince one person not to go to a private career college, I've made a difference. That's what I'm trying to do here. That's what I want to accomplish. Somebody has to be held accountable. Because as long as the government doesn't do anything, these schools are going to keep getting away with their lackluster curricula. They're going to keep getting away with it. And that's unacceptable. In Canada, The private career college industry alone is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So a lot of money is changing hands. But yet, a lot of their clients, the students, are getting the short end of the stick. Because of all the laxed rules by government, these schools are definitely putting profits ahead of the interests of their clientele, their students. That is absolutely not fair. Because unlike other businesses out there, you go and buy a car and it's under warranty and something malfunctions. The warranty is acknowledged, the car is fixed with no additional out-of-pocket costs for you. You go to a grocery store, you buy a jug of milk and it's spoiled, yet the expiry date is still 2 weeks away. You go to the store, you get a refund or an exchange. But when it comes to the business of private career colleges, that's a different breed of business altogether. And unfortunately, once the money has changed hands, that's it. You're never going to see that money again. And even if you were to find yourself thinking about maybe taking the school that you attended to court to get your tuition fees back. You know the old expression. You get a lawyer, you take him to court, you'll end up paying 10 times more in legal fees perhaps than it would be for the tuition fees that you paid. So taking a school like that to court is counterproductive, in other words. So there's very little, if anything, a disgruntled ex-graduate of a school can do. There's very, very little that can be done, which is very unfortunate. Pursuing a post-secondary education is a risk, but it's all about making the most calculated risk possible. And I thought I did more than enough due diligence when picking the school I attended. I thought I did. I went to this school because of what a person through a mutual friend told me, who went to the exact same school, did the exact same diploma program as I did. Gave great reviews and everything like that. And then the fact that the school was accredited, supposedly accredited, that they were approved by the government, and that they're a school that had been around for a while. There weren't some fly-by-night school that just opened up out of nowhere. So I figured that I was in good hands. I put my blind trust in this school. And right away, the red flags flared up as soon as I started classes. Everything that one could think of, like ill-qualified instructors, outdated equipment, staff turnover, instructor turnover, all those things happen. And like I said, including some very, very bogus marking scheme policies, as I mentioned before. I could have easily quit and tried to move on to something else, but I figured I was in too deep and I just might as well go with the flow and do the best I can. I did graduate from the school with an average in the mid-80s. That's not too shabby at all. Because I really worked very hard in spite of the fact I had to deal with so much adversity outside of the classroom. Like trying to get by financially speaking, because the resources I had were very, very limited. I really had to make do with what I had. So I think I answered the bell quite admirably. I did everything anyone could have asked me to do. But at the end of the day, I had nothing at all to show for it. In this book, you'll see how I basically had to come to terms with the fact that I was ripped off. That I had to basically cut my losses on what was, in hindsight, a poor investment of time and money and accept defeat. That was not easy for me to do. I am a super, ultra competitive person at everything I've ever done in my life. I go out there and I work my tail off to be a winner, to succeed, And it's very difficult to succeed when the door gets slammed in your face by employers who say, I don't recognize your credentials. When I followed up with some employers who rejected me, many of them just outright came out and said to me, if I had it my way, and I quote, private career colleges, if I had it my way, they would be all shut down. Now, of course, that's not all cut and dry, because private career colleges will cite their constitutional right to free enterprise as the central reason why they should be allowed to operate as a business. I get that. In a democracy like ours, we have the right to free enterprise. But that does not give private career colleges the right to blatantly rip off people and getting away with below the bare minimum as far as being cutting edge is concerned. This school advertised themselves as a cutting edge school in those exact words. And advertisement campaigns saying that employees endorse the graduates of the school by hiring them, and this and that and the other thing, and all that stuff. Now, I mean, this is not, of course, like, verbatim. I'm just approximating roughly what these advertisements on the radio, for example, were saying. And even now on social media, 20 years later, I get a lot of unprovoked solicitations from private career colleges. And I scoff at them, and I scoff at all their headlines when they say that, oh, guaranteed this and median salary that, and I'm like, really? Just nothing but phony baloney. Or as I like to call it, snake oil. Because that's all they're trying to sell you is snake oil. And we all know the moral of the story of what happens when somebody buys snake oil. You see where I'm going with this? I like to think of private career colleges as gigantic flim-flam machines that use that proverbial snake oil as the grease to operate their businesses. And students are the ones who become the victims of all of this. Considering that the job market is already flooded, it was flooded back then, it's still flooded now, with graduates from every discipline you can think of, including information technology. And a lot of them are from the publicly administered schools, and a lot of them are from the private ones. And I know that a lot of employers out there use a very, very simple screening tool to weed out whose resumes they want to review. They see something where they look on the resume, education, if it shows a private career college, goes into the shredder. If the person graduated from a publicly administered school, yeah, I'll take a look at that in further detail later on. I know employers are doing this, and who can blame them? There was a time when I was bitter against employers for not wanting to hire me because, I felt like I did everything right. But from the eyes of employers, they tell a different story, and I came to accept that sometime later. That employers have been burned in the past by private career college graduates who get hired on and they simply don't know what they're doing. And really through no fault of their own. The school basically gave them tools and the means that were just simply not good enough. Just goes back to what I said before. They try to advertise their cutting edge, and employers endorse their graduates by hiring them, among other different kinds of slogans I've ever heard. And it's basically it's just basically all baloney, phony baloney. Because while this school that I went to were still advertising that their graduates are getting hired on and this and that and the other thing, and the success rates and whatnot on the radio ads and whatnot. Yet at the same time, when I was on the phone or on the email with this school, looking for support, some networking, some connections and whatnot, do you know of anybody who's hiring? Basically, nonchalantly, they just say, oh, the market is slow right now and there's little we can do. I'm pretty sure, truthfully, The market was slow for people in my situation. However, there were still lots of IT jobs out there, and if you were an experienced IT professional, and especially if you were just a rookie IT professional, just fresh out of a public college, you know, the job prospects are very good. You know, so and trying to deal with the school I graduated from was basically like worse than getting a root canal. It's just it was just completely unacceptable. They treated me with indifference while I was attending classes. They treated me with indifference after I graduated. And that's not acceptable. And trust me, folks, this book is very compelling. I poured a lot of time and a lot of research into this. I did not take this project of mine very lightly. This is something that I'm very passionate about and dead serious about. I want to make a difference. I want to help people. And maybe, if good fortune should come along, then maybe this book could also force change, starting with the government, getting more strict on these schools. There's a lot of juicy details in here, folks, that will convince you not to go to a private career college. There's also a lot of substance in here that a lot of other victims can relate to. And I assure you, this is a worthwhile read. Because even if you didn't go to a private career college, perhaps you had a son, a daughter, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, a friend go to one of these schools, and you heard that person ranting and raving. I couldn't get gainful employment. Because this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that has affected the lives of so many people and have dashed the dreams, the desires, the hopes, and the ambitions that so many people have had, including myself. So this book is available on Amazon through Kindle Direct Publishing. The ebook goes roughly for around between $6 and $6.50, and the softcover book that I'm holding here runs for around $12.50 Canadian. Because everything goes through Amazon United States, the prices are initially set at US dollars. So if there's any change, even the slightest change in the exchange rate between the US versus the Canadian dollar, the prices will fluctuate from day to day, but in general should remain around that same ballpark, unless there's a dramatic change in the exchange rate. So it's very, very affordable. For the cost of a Starbucks latte, not to sound cliche by any means, you can have the ebook. For a KFC value meal or a McDonald's value meal, you can get the softcover book. Trust me, this read will not disappoint. In the meantime, I encourage feedback. And that feedback includes before and after you purchase a copy. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. However, any forms of hostility towards me will be swiftly dealt with. They will be deleted immediately, and you will be blocked from making any further comments. Because I'm trying to help people, and I'm telling the truth. And unfortunately, the truth can seriously hurt. It's better to be hurt in a truth than to be hurt in a lie. I've had one person already read my book from cover to cover. And this person found my story very compelling and very moving. Thank you very much for your time, folks. and I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.